Part 2, The Fruits of Infamy. Chapter 16, The First Response. The reaction to the attack in Washington. As news of the attack on Pearl Harbor spread around the world, reports soon followed of other Japanese actions all over the Pacific. They struck Singapore in Southeast Asia, where the British had a big naval base. They struck Kota Bharu on the British Malayan Peninsula and the British base in Hong Kong. They attacked U.S.-operated Clark Field in the Philippines, and they struck the U.S. islands of Guam and Wake. All this within 7 hours and 3 minutes of the attack on Pearl Harbor. And then a few hours later, they hit U.S. air and naval bases in Manila and the mid-Pacific U.S. island of Midway. Before the attack, one of Roosevelt's major concerns had been that the American people would not support a war to defend the British or Dutch in Southeast Asia if the Japanese attacked them there. However, the attack on the U.S. fleet at Pearl Harbor had radically altered the situation. Now there was no doubt that the people would support a declaration of war. As FDR's meeting with congressional leaders on the evening of the attack broke up, Democrat House Speaker Sam Rayburn was asked, "Will the president ask for a declaration of war?" FDR hadn't committed himself, but Rayburn volunteered that if he did, that is one thing on which there would be unity. Minority House Leader Joseph W. Martin agreed, there is only one party when it comes to the integrity and honor of the country. Senator David I. Walsh, chairman of the Naval Affairs Committee, a frequent critic of FDR's foreign policy. The unexpected and unprovoked attacks upon United States territory and ships, and the formal declaration of war by Japan, leave Congress no choice but to take speedy and decisive measures to defend our country. We must promptly meet the challenge with all our resources and all our courage. Within hours of the attack, many Japanese nationals in this country were picked up and detained. Congressional leaders made plans to question top military officials. The morning after the attack. At noon, the president was driven up to Capitol Hill to address a joint session of Congress. The members of the House and Senate and their guests were assembled in the House chamber when the president entered. It was a somber occasion. The president was an eloquent speaker, and everyone was anxious to hear what he had to say. Roosevelt began clearly and firmly. Yesterday, December 7, 1941, a date which will live in infamy. The United States of America was suddenly and deliberately attacked by naval and air forces of the Empire of Japan. The United States had been at peace with that nation, he said, and its envoys had still been in conversation with his government. The Japanese government has deliberately sought to deceive the United States by false statements and expressions of hope for continued peace. FDR went on to state that the United States was not Japan's only target. Yesterday, the Japanese government also launched an attack against Malaya. Last night, Japanese forces attacked Hong Kong. Last night, Japanese forces attacked Guam. Last night, Japanese forces attacked the Philippine Islands. Last night, the Japanese attacked Wake Island. This morning, the Japanese attacked Midway Island. The president called on the American people to come to the defense of the country. No matter how long it may take us to overcome the premeditated invasion, the American people in their righteous might will win through to absolute victory. I believe I interpret the will of the Congress and of the people when I assert that we will not only defend ourselves to the uttermost, but will make very certain that this form of treachery shall never endanger us again. Hostilities exist. There is no blinking at the fact that our people, our territory, and our interests are in grave danger. The president's short talk was a ringing call for the support of the American people. With confidence in our armed forces, with the unbounded determination of our people, we will gain the inevitable triumph, so help us God. The president then asked the Congress to declare that since the unprovoked and dastardly attack by Japan on Sunday, December 7, a state of war has existed between the United States and the Japanese Empire. With Congress's December 8 resolution, the United States was at war with Japan, not with Germany, which throughout most of 1941, FDR had considered the prime target. War. Japan's Emperor Hirohito promptly declared war on the United States and Great Britain. England, Australia, Canada, the Netherlands, East Indies, and Costa Rica all responded by announcing that a state of war existed between them and Japan. On the morning of December 11, Germany and Italy both declared war on the United States. FDR notified Congress, which promptly issued 2 joint resolutions resolving that the state of war between the United States and the government of Germany and the government of Italy, which has thus been thrust upon the United States, is hereby formally declared.